How's it going, guys? What of course you'll be seeing today, as you can tell by the title, is that I'll be breaking down and reviewing the legendary or the exotic fusion rifle in Destiny called Plan C. You can get it through random drops in the Crucible, through the Nightfall Strike, or legendary Ingrams, and I personally received it from the Nexus Nightfall Strike the first time it was here the first time it was here a while back in late September, early October, as opposed to right now, which is like early November. Not now, I didn't get it now. I got the rough stats from Destiny DB, and they state that the gun starts at a 260 base damage and increases to 300 once you fully upgraded it. To upgrade Plan C, what you'll need is Glimmer, weapon parts, and Ascendant Energy, and the other form, whether it be Relic Iron, Spirit Bloom, or something like that, may differ for your particular weapon. The charge rate is 22%, it has an impact rating of a high 87%, a range of 50, a stability rating of 46, and a reload percent of 90. That's sky high. And the magazine size is 5. You can already tell by those stats before preliminary upgrade perks and weapon behavior change perks that this has extreme potential written all over it, and it does play out that way, as I'll get to in a minute. In terms of PvP damage output, this thing's basically in shorter range of, say, maybe 10 to 15 meters, an approximate, that's sort of an approximate location indication I'd give you there. It's a one-hit kill. Anything beyond that, or if you get like a partial graze as opposed to a full-on center mass hit, it's probably not going to be a one-hit kill, but it'll probably be followed up with 2. So it's basically a short to medium range or somewhere in between that for a one-hit kill, as long as you can hit center mass. If you graze a guy, it's not going to be. With regard to the skill tree, all Plan C's in existence have no variation because they're exotic, and they all deal arc damage. You have 3 clear options in terms of the barrel. The first one is Field Choke, which add range but drop stability. CQB Ballistics, which does the same as the barrel I just mentioned, but they're less dramatic on both buff and decreases. And the last one, which I choose, is called Smart Drift Control. It helps control recoil with a slight reduction to range, which isn't a big deal because this thing already has amazing impact, good range for a fusion rifle, and the damage output, as long as you're accurate, doesn't really change much, so that's the logic behind my choice. Hope it makes sense. With regard to the skill tree, the first important perk is called Hipfire, and as you might expect, it buffs hipfire accuracy, which is really nice when you're in PvP. The next 3 perks which you'll have a choice over are accelerated coils, which reduce charge times, which is my choice. Hammer Forge, which increases range, and Perfect Balance, which dramatically increases stability. The choice is yours, but like I said, prefer the faster charge rate. It helps so much in PvP and harder strikes like the Nightfall when you're getting swarmed by multiple opponents where every millisecond counts. Every single one, though, is a good option. Of course, it comes down to your preferences and how you feel your playstyle is going to match up with a particular buff. The last perk of Plan C is basically called Plan C, and it's the most intriguing part of the weapon because charge times and equip times are very short after weapon swap. This particular perk has saved me many times after running out of my rounds with my primary, quickly switching to my secondary or my special. In addition, it saves you when you're being overrun by mobs in PvE, where you run out of ammo with your primary, quick switch to your secondary, mow the guy down, and then that gives you either more time to reload your primary or relocate to an area with better cover and reassess the situation. So up to you. It comes in handy a ton more than you'd think as well. Some people think, oh, well, it's only when you're switched, but no, believe me, it helps. You can actually game plan in PvP to turn around corners by weapon swap with this. And the last 5 perks are damage upgrades. With regard to my overall impressions in PvE, the weapon, especially in strikes where arc is buffed, it's an absolute monster. Some of the footage you'll see is the Summoning Pits Nightfall Strike a couple weeks ago, where arc was buffed and I can pretty much 1 or 2 hit just about everything. Even knights with shields, and knights themselves are some of the tougher bosses in the game, or tougher enemies, non-bosses, as it is in the game. And in the Nightfall, they're shielded, and this thing still cuts through them in 2. You'll see at the end too of me outputting quite a bit of damage onto Fogoth as well. So it's, especially with the buff, but even without it, it still puts out insane damage. And like I was alluding to earlier, the impact pushes back enemies so you can reassess your situation. A lot of people prefer the Pocket Infinity to this weapon, and that's fine. So those two I'd probably list in the top 3 in the game, but I'd personally say this beats it. That's my opinion. Like I said, in PvE or PvP as well, it comes in great handy when you're caught with reload mistakes, or and especially when you combine it with the faster charge rate perk like I have. It gives it an option that doesn't really have a ton of weaknesses. This weapon alone in PvP has gotten me multiple rage messages. So overall, to sum it up, I use this weapon with no fear or reservations in both PvE and the Crucible. Other than the fact that you have to charge it to use it, and the fact that it doesn't really have a range longer than medium range, and thank God, because, and I don't use the term overpowered very often, but this, if it was longer than medium range, this thing would be overpowered. This thing doesn't really have a true weakness, to be perfectly honest, especially when you combine it with the faster charge rate perk. It's definitely my go-to special weapon. Especially after the Pocket Infinity nerf, because you could argue before the nerf it was definitively the best. But the Pocket Infinity nerf brought it back down to reality, so to speak, and I think this one actually, Plan C actually overtook it. It's all your preference, of course, but that's me. I think with the stats alone, you can make a very convincing argument to prove that this thing is the best, and I think it is. So there it is. Agree, disagree? Let me know in the comments.